Hi guys, it's Kainat here from the Dark Neuron. Let's get right into today's topic.
At 2:17 in the morning, a dispatcher at a quiet emergency call center answered a phone call that should never have existed. The line was weak, full of static, like someone calling from a place far away. Or perhaps from somewhere they shouldn't be at all. Then a voice whispered three chilling words. "Please? He's here." The dispatcher immediately asked the caller to identify herself, but the woman on the line didn't answer the question. Instead, she kept repeating the apartment number 307. Her breathing was shaky, almost trembling. In the background there was a faint sound, something dragging slowly across a wooden floor. The call ended abruptly, but here's the detail that would terrify investigators later. The call had come from an apartment that had been empty for nearly 2 weeks. This is the story of the last call from apartment 307. The building itself stood in a quiet residential block, an aging concrete structure with narrow hallways and flickering fluorescent lights. It wasn't famous. It wasn't particularly dangerous. It was the kind of place people moved into when they needed somewhere cheap and temporary. Apartment 307 had been rented by a woman named Laura Bennett, a 28-year-old freelance photographer who had recently moved into the city. Neighbors described her as friendly but quiet. She often worked late at night editing photos or organizing shoots. For the first few weeks, everything seemed normal, but then the strange events began. A neighbor living in apartment 305 later told investigators she occasionally heard Laura pacing around her living room at odd hours. Not unusual for someone who worked late, but sometimes the pacing would stop suddenly, followed by long periods of complete silence. Then there were the phone calls. Laura had mentioned to a coworker that someone kept calling her late at night. When she answered, there was no one on the line. Just breathing. At first she assumed it was a prank or a wrong number, but the calls kept coming, 3 nights in a row. Then something even stranger happened. One evening, Laura knocked on her neighbor's door looking visibly shaken. She asked if anyone had been inside her apartment while she was gone. The neighbor said no. Laura explained that when she returned from work, several objects had been moved. A chair pulled out from the table, a kitchen drawer left open, and the most disturbing detail, her bedroom closet door was slightly open. Laura was certain she had closed it before leaving. Her neighbor tried to reassure her. Old buildings settle, doors shift, things move. But Laura didn't seem convinced. She told the neighbor something that still sends chills down investigators' spines. "I think someone is watching me." After that night, Laura became more reclusive. She stopped chatting with neighbors in the hallway and rarely left her apartment except for work. Then suddenly she vanished. 1 week passed without anyone seeing her. At first, nobody thought much of it. People come and go in apartment buildings all the time. But when Laura missed an important photography job and stopped responding to messages, her friend contacted the building manager. The manager used a master key to open apartment 307. Inside, everything looked normal, too normal. The lights were off. The furniture was untouched. Laura's camera gear sat neatly on a table, but Laura herself was gone. And no signs of struggle. No broken windows. No forced entry. Just an empty apartment. Police were called, but with no evidence of a crime. The case quickly went cold. 2 weeks later, the emergency call came in. 2:17 a.m. "Please. He's here." The dispatcher traced the call. Location, apartment 307. Officers arrived at the building within minutes. The hallway was silent. Apartment 307's door was locked from the outside. When police entered the apartment, they found the same thing the manager had seen earlier. Everything was exactly as it had been, but there was one new detail. Laura's bedroom closet door was wide open. Inside the closet, officers discovered something disturbing carved into the back wall. The wood paneling had been scratched repeatedly with what looked like a sharp object, 3 numbers over and over again. Investigators searched the apartment thoroughly. No fingerprints besides Laura's, no hidden entry points. No signs anyone had been living there secretly, and perhaps the most confusing detail of all. The emergency call, phone records confirmed the call was real. It had lasted 23 seconds and connected directly to emergency services, but the call didn't come from a mobile phone. It came from a landline registered to apartment 307, a landline that had been disconnected 10 days earlier. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Laura Bennett was never found. No suspects were identified, and the source of that final call was never explained, some residents of the building say. Apartment 307 still sits empty. Tenants move in, but never stay long. They report strange noises at night. Footsteps pacing slowly across the floor, and sometimes very late in the early hours of the morning, a faint sound coming from inside the walls, a phone ringing over and over again.
Thanks for hanging out. Remember to subscribe for more videos and hit that notification bell. See you soon.